Hello and welcome to the All Out Coach podcast. This is Tim Mikhelishvili. I'm your host, also CEO and co-founder of Amadev Pharma, that's bringing sportsmanship and data science into the life science industry. Also host of the All Out Coach podcast, as I mentioned, which also combines sportsmanship and the scientific method, inspiring people to transcend their differences and also their limits, to go beyond the roles, they extend the roles, the borders of the roles of their responsibilities in life. Today, I have a very special podcast. I know a lot of people are excited to hear and meet the man behind the once longest world record jump, and Olympic legend, the man who could fly, Bob Beamon, Olympic gold medalist, still to this day, Olympic record holder in the long jump in track and field from Mexico City, a musician. He actually started the track and field event at the 2024 Paris Olympics just a month away or so, a month ago, with a musical performance as well. And so this is a very rare opportunity for all of you to also ask questions for Bob. Post your comments. I know I have a special guest also, who's a long jump coach of my daughter, uh, who's going to be joining as well. He's going to be listening in. He may ask some questions. And so with that, we're live right now on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And I'd like to welcome you, Bob. It's truly an honor to have you here on my podcast.
Thanks, Tim. Great to be here this morning. I'm looking
Great.
forward to a great session. So uh, I'm
Yes.
ready to kick it out.
Okay. All right. Great. And you're joining from South Carolina, correct?
Right, Myrtle Beach, Myrtle
Myrtle Beach.
Beach.
Beautiful area. Yes. Okay. So, what really got you to become an athlete? What inspired you first to become a sports athlete and a track and field? I imagine you had many different talents. I read that you were a basketball player also, but how did you start in sports?
Well, I think locally, where I lived in New York City, um, a town where uh, most youth in New York know about the place called South Jamaica. Um, pretty rough growing up in that area. However, we did find ways of uh, getting involved with community kinds of activities. And one for me was the Police Athletic League. And uh, they had track and field. And probably one of the most inexpensive sports. Uh, I never, during that time with the PAL, I never bought a pair of track shoes. So it was pretty inexpensive for me. However, um, I had a great upcoming for the PAL involvement, where we were not running by age, we were running by weight class, and so I was a little skinny boy that um, stayed in a couple of weight classes for several years. I started out in elementary school, which I would say my ages were probably about 8 and 9 years old. Uh, it was a, a great experience uh, running in weight class, because the weight classes were about five weight classes: 65 pounds, 75 pounds, 85, 95, 105, and the last one was 115 pounds. And so I never did get up to 115 because I stayed somewhere around in 65 pounds to 105 pounds. So it seems like the ones that were 115 pounds were guys that were much older than we much older than my class. So I remained in the lower classes, but the competition was very steep. I remember experiencing uh, competing at the 369th Street Armory in Manhattan, which was called the City Champs, the PAL City Champs. And
Familiar
I,
with that. Yes.
I thought that I was the fastest thing in the world until the gun went off, and I was the last one to get out, uh, as they call it, a trouble start. And so, pretty much embarrassing for me. But however, for some reason, I didn't stop because I lost. I stopped probably because I was pretty angry at myself by not being able to be a challenge to the
Mhm.
to the kids that were in my age group. I mean, in my weight class group.
Okay.
So I was totally very surprised, but very competitive too. So I eventually started to do a little bit better, and particularly with the relays that we used to have. So we would have the 4x100 relay, and that was very critical in around my age group and in the community.
Mhm.
I think it was more important to win a relay than it was to win the individual events like the 50 yards or the 60 yards or the 100 yard.
Mhm.
100 yard was pretty much not existing indoors for us. But again, um, the different uh, distances were very challenging for us, very exciting.
Okay, so you started with the sprint. You're very fast. At what point did you transition into the long jump?
Well, it was kind of freaky in a sense. It wasn't the kind of thing that you would just choose and say, I'm going to do it today.
Mhm.
Actually, I had been beaten so bad in the running events that I was getting somewhat upset that there was not a where could I win a medal? And every all my friends were coming home with medals, and I was
Mhm.
uh, not existent with a medal. But here's what happened. One of the young friends of mine got sick, uh, and I said to them, I said, hey, can I try that? And the coach said, well, yeah, we'll let you try it. And on my first jump, I jumped 19 feet. It was a surprise to me, but I also won the competition for my age group. So
So that's over 6 meters, correct? For our international audience. And at what age were you? Were you?
I think I was somewhere around 10 or 11.
10. Wow. Okay. 10, 11,
Yeah,
and you jumped over 6 meters, somewhere between, right? I think that's, yeah, nice.
yeah, it was rather a surprise to me, but also I think it was a surprise to all of my friends. And then I got a first place medal, and I used to wear a cap, and I put my medal on the back of my hat, and I showed it off at school. I was so proud of my medal that it just brought more attention to. Um, well, if I can do that, maybe I can do a little bit more. Maybe I can. And so, just by someone just getting sick during the competitions there, and I asked that I try that. Uh, and it came out very positive for me on that one.
Wow. The very first competition, and you had such a huge success. Yeah. It sounds like you were quite a competitive person and also self-driven. Did any of that come from your family? Was your family in sports somehow, or in
Well,
track?
when we talk about family, my family was somewhat, as they call it, sometimes discombobulated and not in touch.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm. Okay. Okay.
I my my mother passed away when I was 11 months old, and I really never knew who my father was. And so I got myself involved in a lot of outside activities that were really socially unacceptable, and um, being in the community, it could be rather embarrassing that here's a kid that has one foot in the grave and one, he's trying to serve two people at one time, the good and the bad. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got I got a little bit more interested after uh, the competition that I had with the Police Athletic League that day that I won 19 feet, and so
Mhm.
that set the stage for just a little bit, just to feel, uh, to kind of get the feeling that I'm accomplishing something. And I was always looking at, well, if I can do that, if I could jump 19 feet, could I jump 20 feet? Could I jump 21 feet? And so I started to go to practice
Mhm.
and listening to the coaches at the time. And uh, the next time that I became uh, in a major competition competitively in New York was the Junior Olympics, and that was I think I was 14 or 15, uh, and actually I didn't even have the track shoes that would
Mm.
accommodate the
Yeah.
asphalt that was at Randall's Island in New
Mm.
York, and
Right.
the Junior Olympics uh, was at Randall's Island. My
Oh, it's
first,
one of my favorite stadiums, by the way. It's one where I saw actually Usain Bolt's world record in 2008. I had the front row seat, and he ran 972 in Randall's Island. Yeah,
wow, wow,
icon
wow,
stadium.
wow. So, so what happened was I borrowed one of the athletes' shoes, and went on to Randall's Island. And actually, I didn't even have any money for entry fees and stuff like this, and they let me. They just let me go and just said, uh, "Enjoy yourself today." So anyway, I had no idea what was to happen on that incredible day. Uh, I had said that I had started to practice and work out with the teams and stuff like this here. So on this day, I stood up at the head of the runway, very competitive because we had one gentleman
Hmm.
uh, that was very competitive, but he always beat me
Mm.
uh, uh, in the 100 or the 50 or whatever. And so
Hmm.
I was saying that today, let's see if he can do this today. And so I ran down the runway and I jumped 24 feet 1 inch as a 15, 14, 15-year old. And that was truly the beginning of really taking advantage of the ability to uh, perform in the long jump.
Hmm. So the long jump is one of the probably most difficult events, sporting events, not only in track and field but in general, I think. Right, and that I want to ask you to explain to our public and to our listeners, to our, what makes it so difficult. The mechanics of the jump, combining the sprint, the speed with the technique. So what makes the long jump so special and difficult?
Well, first of all, entering into high school,
Hmm.
um, I came in with a reputation of um, being a have a potential of being a long jumper, but
Uh-huh.
my coach at the time, Larry Ellis, said to me that we want to try you in the triple jump. And in 1 year, I had broke the national triple jump record. So I was more well known in high school, uh, being the national record holder in triple jump. But
Oh,
also, I jumped 25 feet 6 inches
okay.
in the long jump in high school too. But more so, uh, more well known as a triple jumper. Um,
Hmm.
one of the things that you know I want to say to the coaches and to youngsters, sometimes when we do when we surpass our previous performances and we do it in well, um, sometimes we may go back to not doing so well. And so, what we now are looking at, how do we become consistent in what we are trying to attempt to do? And so that was my my sophomore year in high school was a year of finding ways of becoming consistent, more consistent. And so
Hmm.
that meant that I had to step up in practices and things like this here, and uh, and get some professional coaching from my high school coach. That was truly a blessing for track and field in the country, because he eventually became the president of the Federation for Track and Field. So uh, I felt that he gave me all the necessary tools uh, to take advantage of my ability. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we don't do so well, uh, we look for other alternatives to, or we start blaming other things and we start going astray. However, I remained um, uh, very consistent in my interest of track and field. Also, I had the love for basketball too in high school.
Right.
So
Yeah, I read about that in Wall
yeah,
Street,
it was sort of a
Washington Post.
challenge where, Bob, what do you like the best? And a lot of times I like the basketball because all the girls would come out and watch me play. So and then it would mean that maybe I can go out with one of the cheerleaders. I don't know,
Yeah,
just
yeah. Of course,
something.
that's certainly a motivation for a young man.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But overall, the thing was to, as my coach said, was consistency in not only in sports, but consistency in life things in life. So
Yeah, yeah.
we uh, we had some great conversations, which built my foundation of uh, how to go forth and to be consistent and to uh, uh, whatever I dreamed to wanting to be. It was
Yeah.
at my fingertips, and
Okay.
that I had the tools to make it happen.
Okay. Yeah. So the long jump and excelling at this particular event takes a lot of consistency. How many years did you have that coach that had such a big impact on your life and
Well,
career?
I had him for at least 2 years, and I went on to college, graduated,
Oh, okay.
and then Coach Ellis went on to be the first black uh, coach in the Ivy League. He coached at Princeton,
Mm,
so he was, and we stayed in contact, and at times he used to give me workouts and stuff like this to do. So
hmm.
yeah, we stayed in contact, we communicated,
Yeah.
and I continued to love him almost like he was my father.
Mm, yeah.
So we had one particular part of long jumping that I felt is very critical to all of long jumpers, and that is sometimes coaches try to change your form of of expressing yourself in jumping. And one of the things that happened to me with Coach Ellis was that he did not change my form. Uh,
Hmm.
where some coaches say, well, if you change and go into this form, you will get better distance and so forth. And so what he was doing was trying to perfect my way of expressing myself in the long jump. And
Hmm.
so it wasn't the typical long jumper where they jumped off their left foot. I jumped off my right. And also, I had a very strange way of jumping. I didn't use the hitch kick. What I did was I worked on uh, the height of jumping. So when I came off the board, I could jump over a hurdle
Okay.
uh, where if you were able to jump off a hurdle over a hurdle,
Right.
it would mean that you maximize your height, but also um, it it gave you a feeling of confidence that uh, if I can jump over a hurdle while I'm long jumping, I can jump over a mountain. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
what they were doing was giving me a lot of different ways of looking at long jumping, but but continue and remaining in the form that I really started. And so, in other words, I perfected this unorthodox form of jumping.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so this was a blessing for me. And I thank the coach for saying, hey, uh, do you know when to leave well enough alone? So,
Yeah.
so you gotta, he's doing well in his jump, and we just need to perfect it more. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it it took me many years, even after high school and college, to perfect this way of jumping. I think that I really got the message uh, while I was in Mexico City, uh, uh, preparing for my jump at the Olympic Games. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until then that everything started to make sense. I mean, I did extraordinarily well in competition. I won all of my competitions. And
Yeah.
it's just that what was happening to me was that I was learning more about my body and
Hmm.
how it will respond to different situations, whether it was rain or snow or whatever. So those are the things that I did to
Sure.
to train and to get myself mentally prepared for Mexico City.
Those of you watching and following, regardless what industry you're in, I think we have a lot of lessons to learn in terms of integrating sports principles into our performance, right? And I think what some of the comments you just made there, Bob, made me once again think about just how sports athletes who are driven or champions like yourself, they constantly analyze and break down their performance. They don't just execute, but they analyze, they focus, and they focus on progress, right? On making those incremental steps, which ultimately takes a lot of work and consistency. So let's go to that evening in Mexico City where you broke that world record, 8 meters 90 centimeters. Look, I mean, growing up, I was a big sports athlete. I competed in everything. Was always very competitive, and at work also, I went to work as if it were a sport. But I always held myself accountable to sportsmanship, right? Principles, not only performance. Treating other people the way they want to be treated. Not only I would want to be treated, but I used to measure my jumps myself, and I didn't have a coach. I didn't have the fortune of having a coach, or doing competing in track and field. But I remember just thinking about that world record that you had, growing up, and just kind of visualizing and just how it's impossible. It's almost like giving humans a sneak peek into what it would feel like if they were to fly that long, almost 9 meters. Just so just think about it. And in fact, we have a 26-foot jumper, a coach, Lutalo, as I mentioned. He coaches my daughter, and he's actually in the audience watching. So maybe he can also ask questions and comment. But Bob, I know that you had some challenges even on that night that you broke that world record. You had to qualify. First of all, you had to have consistency to qualify for the Olympics. But then in the qualification, before you got to the final, can you just take us through that evening or that day?
Right. Well, just to give you a little bit of the things that were going on during prior to the final. I had been working out with the sprinters, Tommy Smith, John Carlos, Mel Pender. All these guys had speed that was unbelievable. As a matter of fact, a lot of these guys had broken 10 seconds to run the 100 meters. And so this is the first year that they were recorded anything under 10 seconds for the 100 meters.
Oh, wow.
So Jimmy Hines, I think John Carlos, all those guys, Mel Pender, were all under 10 seconds. And I had the opportunity to work out with these guys. Every day we would go out and work out. And that caused me to have speed of just unbelievable speed. Speed that could have cost me fouling out in the preliminary.
Okay.
I had to make so much adjustment in the preliminaries the day before the final because my speed was just unbelievable. And so my good friend Ralph Boston, who had won the long jump in 1960 in Rome and took a silver in Tokyo, was standing up there watching me take 2 jumps, and I had one more jump to qualify to make it into the final round. And he came over to me and said, what I want you to do is to start on the other leg, but also I want you to move it back something like 2 or 3 feet and start on the other leg. Unfortunately, I didn't hit the board. I was like 2 or 3 feet behind the board.
Mm.
But I managed to qualify.
On the
And
last attempt, correct?
on the last attempt, basically
Wow.
pretty much similar to Jesse Owens when he was competing against Lux Long in the long jump in 1936 in the Olympics. So one of the things that we have to do, as Ralph would say, is that anything that happened before, you have to erase it out of your mind. And it's almost like everything is brand new. And so I did that. I followed those words of Ralph, and
Hmm.
I made it into the final. So now we're talking about October 18th, and as a matter of fact, the games at that time were uh, in October. They were not in July and August, so they were in October. So that made our uh, uh, competitions and stuff go later. And but to me, that was a great experience for me to experience it that way. So anyway, we take you to October 18th, and uh, I had an incredible night before of being able to sleep
Hmm.
uh, and sort of be focused on the jump, but not too much, but just basically relax about it.
Okay.
It's going to happen. It's going to come. You know, that day is going to come, and it's going to come in a couple of hours. So just be ready, but enjoy yourself, relax. And so
Mm.
I got up the next day. I had a nice meal, but for some reason, I felt like uh, I, I felt like I had to get this thing done. Had
Mm.
something within me that I had to release.
You saw
And
yourself winning. Did you see yourself winning before the competition, the final
well,
began?
I always see myself with it.
Okay. Oh, that's an important lesson.
So, so basically,
I like that.
I'm I go up into the. I'm walking through the corridors at the in the halls of going out on the field uh, at the stadium, and while I'm walking out there, I'm just very confident. You know, all you have to do, you just need to jump, get one out there, just so that you'll have a legal jump. And then on your second jump, you can just kind of take it to another level if you can. And so um, I was one of the first jumpers, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
And being one of the first jumpers means that I just made the finals, and so they take the guys uh, that they did worse, did better than me. They went on to be the last jumpers. So it's very strange how life has it going. So here's what happened. So I stand up at the runway and I'm very confident and I'm feeling like all of these things that I've worked so hard for, um, I can reflect back to, as we talked about, when I started running with the Police Athletic League. I was
Hmm.
running at 65 pounds, 75 pounds, and so forth. And I said, wow, I've come a long ways, man, to and so
Wow.
what I want to do is I want to I want to win a gold medal. Uh, Everybody was talking about breaking the world record and stuff like. I was specifically wanting to win a gold medal. I didn't. I didn't have conversations about breaking. I was going to break a world record and stuff like this here. It's kind of like if it comes, that's great. But I'm here to win a gold medal.
Hmm.
And As a matter of fact, I think um, those that uh, go into the Olympic Games, some have been very disappointed because they thought about breaking world records and not thinking about uh, staying with the competition to win the competition so that you can come out winning a gold.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there and
Mhm.
I take my first step, and believe me, my heart was pumping. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
I could
real.
hear it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And so I, for some reason, took that step and hit the board. And when I landed, I kind of didn't want to turn around because they either will have a red flag or a white flag. And so I did take the turn. The turn saw a white flag.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
said, great. I said, okay, now I can go back now and prepare for my second jump. So now I got it. I got it now. So I can do my second jump. So I noticed that the officials, they kept looking at this electronic device that they kept shake doing their hand like this. We can't. There's, I guess they were saying, in Spanish, there's no measurement on the measuring device. Uh, the 400 meters was beginning. The guys were in their starting blocks, and they asked the guys to stand up. So
Mhm.
everything stopped, and the officials were saying that the distance on the jump was further than the electronic device. And
Mhm.
so people started to panic in there and
Mhm.
and trying to find how were they going to measure the jump. They had to go and find a measuring tape in order to measure the jump.
Yeah.
And once they measured the jump, it came out to be 8 meters 90. And for
Right.
me, I thought it was, for them to have that number up there, was that the shot put, or the distance, or something uh, other
Right.
than what long jumping. And so
Mhm.
when they plastered that up there, people were jumping out of the stand, coming over to me, and they were. I mean, it just became crazy.
Yeah.
And so uh, it was then a kind of a. I started to walk. Everybody's coming to congratulate me, and then my teammate said, "Hey, Bob, you just jumped over 29 feet." And I was walking, and then all of a sudden, I was on the ground. I think I was between time and space. It
Mm.
was such an emotional uh, uh, moment.
Right.
Uh, at that moment, I realized it, but then I didn't realize. I said, "This is a wonderful dream," and I started pinching myself, like, "Oh, this is,
Yeah. Is this me? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and this is a dream that how you visualize yourself, winning a gold medal." And so my teammates just came over to me and said, "Bob, you have broken the world record."
Yeah.
And so I can tell you at that point right there, I wasn't really believing what I did. I was like, this can't be true.
And even during the jump, Bob, sorry to interrupt, but like during the jump, it doesn't sound like you knew that it was going to be a world record. You were surprised yourself, right? It seems like.
Right? Because see, as I had mentioned to you
Mhm.
before and to the audience, that I didn't go into
Right.
breaking the records. I
Yeah.
wanted I wanted to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
That was the goal. That the record breaking and all of that kind of stuff was just icing on the cake. I mean, and something that I never thought that would come to me.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, as I tell the young athletes that are competing now, is that you know you concentrate on winning the first prize, and by winning that, you know that you're putting every effort into winning. And
Yeah,
so, uh, I um, I was blessed with uh, that feeling of
yeah.
going in uh, and to
Thank
win
you for taking us through.
and
Yeah,
not walk in there thinking that I'm going to break a world record. Even though they said that I was favored to win, I was like, okay, everybody else, everybody else, you got to be careful. You got to have everybody that's competing on that day has every opportunity to do well too. So you
yeah,
have to walk in there like I have to defeat everyone,
yeah.
and um, and I learned to do that uh, with my teammate Ralph Foster, and I did that on my first jump. And so I never really could get myself together after the first jump, which I had planned to do on my second jump. So I had a lot more in me, but I just couldn't do it because who in the heck would know that I broke the Olympic record by 3 feet and I broke the world record almost by 2 feet. I
Right.
was just
You stood, by
totally
the way, for 23 years after you broke it, and to this day, it's still the Olympic record, my
right.
friends. Make sure you heard about
And this is something that, in addition to all the things that I have mentioned, I think it's to me very important to know that competitions like the world games and all that kind of stuff
World Championship. Yeah,
is the world. All of
right.
that stuff is great, but there's something
Different.
about the Olympic
Yeah.
Games that brings so much pressure
Just,
to the competitors. It's
yes.
it's on another it's on another it's on another level. It's
Right.
it's the ultimate of the ultimate. And so
Yeah.
I say, you know, like Jesse Owens came to me and said when I won the NC indoor championships and I broke the world record, I jumped 27 feet indoors, and he came up to me and said, uh, I think that was a pretty fairly decent jump. However, I want you to really concentrate on the Olympic Games. This
Yeah.
is your time to really
And
focus
that
on the
inspired.
game.
He inspired you.
Right.
Being.
In other words,
Yeah.
this was okay, but here's where you need to really perform and start thinking about uh, how to win in that particular arena. And so I started focusing myself and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and prepared myself in that manner.
So, Bob, I know that we can have this discussion for quite a long time, for days, and this discussion here. This interview is actually a preview, part one of the keynote presentation that you're going to be delivering, with another chance for others to ask questions, comment. We have lots of comments here, some of which I showed. You're going to be speaking at the 2024 Medical Affairs Innovation Olympics, where we're carrying that torch of innovation and that Olympic spirit that you just talked about in pharma, in healthcare. So I want to wrap up in the last minute here and just ask you how you took your inspiration after your sports career into life as a musician. You opened the track and field event with a musical performance in Paris. If you can just spend 1 minute on that, and we'll wrap up this podcast episode. Follow All Out Coach and join us at the event. Bob.
Okay. Um, Quite interesting. You would bring that uh, to my attention.
Sure.
I think you have to have an attitude that when example, stood up on the podium to receive the medal, I said, what the hell do I do now? And so to me, this is when it becomes a more serious concern because you've spent a lot of your time in your life preparing for this great day, this
Mhm.
wonderful day. Whether you took first place or whether you took last place, you've spent this a lot of time in prepping for this day. Um, and like I said, what do I do now? And so the transitioning for me was I got to finish college. I had a family at the time, and
Mhm.
I I had to make some decisions on how to go about making this transition. And so I had to the day after I jumped in Mexico City, I was on the plane back to El Paso trying to get wasn't trying, but I had signed up for my classes for the fall, and I had to come in and work from the time that I missed, which was pretty much about a whole month, and I never got a chance to enjoy all the other things that go along with winning at the Olympics, and then I went straight back to El Paso to go to class. Um, the transition stage can be rather alarming. It can be a good experience. It can be a challenging, or I could say a challenging experience because it's not like you're jumping anymore. You're now going into a new area of concern.
Yep.
But what was so great about me making my transition was that I welcomed the challenge. I welcomed it like I welcomed
Same
challenging in the long jump.
along the
So,
same principles, right? Yeah.
right, I would
Great. Th-
I would be motivated. I would be dedicated. I mean, all of those characteristics work with me throughout my personal life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I wanted to always play the play an instrument, a drum.
Drums. You're a percussionist, yes, and you played with a Grammy award-winning band,
Right,
correct? Yeah.
right. And so uh,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I didn't start my career back. Well, I didn't start my back to the music career
Sure.
until 1 year ago. And so I'm right now 78. So when I was 77, I had started to go back
Yeah.
and started to prepare for my music career.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
it was rather challenging. I mean, people would say, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going back to the first love."
Right.
And I know it's going to be hard. And
Yeah.
one of the guys said to me, "Well, Bob, if you're gonna be a drummer and if you're gonna be a percussionist, you better get your hands together." And I thought that was a challenge, and that really got my hair to stand up on my head, which I don't have much left. And the thing about it was that I took it as I'm going to get it done. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
worked and I worked and I
True
worked
sports
and I worked.
athlete at heart. Yeah.
Right. And I worked at it. I worked at it
Thank you so
4 and
much for
5 hours a day. And then all of a sudden, uh, um, my friend, but also he's the band leader who asked me to record an album with him because
yeah.
he
Yeah.
thought that I had come along that quickly. So um, I now have an album on an album, but also I had a chance to
What's
play
it called? What's it called?
It's called Olympic Soul.
Olympic Soul. Okay, great. And the band?
It's called. It's a very interesting. I don't think you'll ever forget this. It's called Stick Bones and the Bone Squad.
Stick Bones and the Bone Squad. Okay, great. Well, that's a great way to wrap this discussion up. But you, I think, have given us a glimpse into the person that you are, who constantly challenges himself, reinvents himself across the various different stages of life, which it requires from us. I'm so fortunate to be introduced to you by Gary Hall Jr. I'm so glad and thankful to him for introducing me to you and learning this story. And October 1st, I'll speak to you on October 1st again.
Well, you know that Gary Hall's father was on the Olympic team with me.
Oh, he mentioned that. He had mentioned that.
Yeah. So there's a great connection, you know.
Yes. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and I welcome you again anytime on the All Out Coach podcast. Anytime. I think there's much more to talk about, but we'll see you at the Innovation Olympics, October 1st, 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.